Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are recapping the latest two decks we played here at the start of the March OCS, starting with CCT. And I like bounty hunters. I think I mentioned when I talked about Shadow Collective that I like aliens. I like the underworld theme. Probably even more so than I like Jedi. Just from a story standpoint, maybe not as much as I like starfighters, but bounty hunters and smugglers is always very interesting to me, and so I enjoy that. And even though this is a heavy ground deck, the power of starting with the matching starship, so the power of starting with the Slave 1 in your hand, means you can always threaten that space. So 2 pilots, 2 passengers is pretty decent, and so it really, I think, helps with deck construction to focus more heavily on the ground, because you know you'll be able to have that ship in space. One thing that I noticed that maybe I didn't like about the deck is that it seems like the damage output is a little bit low. I guess it makes up for that in the retrieval. The retrieval from the objective when you've got the prize, and the retrieval when you initiate battles. But it seems like the deck really, if you get into a situation where you can't start a lot of fights, you're probably going to struggle. Because you've got the drain of 2 at the audience chamber. Often if it's against a deck that's not going to be fighting you, that's probably got a projection on it, so that's only a 1. Then you're pinging 1 with the objective, and then you have to go to Cloud City to get another drain. You can maybe get 1 in space when you find your Nalhutta. So yeah, it's very low damage output aside from battling, so it really does rely on you getting into those fights and winning some fights. I guess the Probot helps in a lot of matches, but generally I guess that could be a playstyle, maybe error of mine, to send Probot down alone. Maybe I could reinforce him more to try and make his drain stick rather than him getting cleared off. Yeah, another thing that I really enjoyed was similar to TTO. The deck has a really clear game plan, right? You set it up right from the beginning. You pull everything you need to get your bounty hunter over to the audience chamber with the prize, so you can flip, and then you can start retrieving. You've got the immunity, and yeah, you set up very quickly, which is always nice. What did I learn about this deck specifically? I learned that Fett is pretty resilient on the first turn. If you can get the first turn flip, you usually will have Fett by himself, and if they've given you an icon or 2, you probably have this, so that he can draw Destiny, and you have access to ways to stop the battle via stunning leader, or stop him from getting shot with ceasefire, and some versions even play the projective telepathy I saw to cancel a battle that way. So he is fairly hard to remove the first turn. You need a pretty specific combination of cards. So yeah, that's good to keep in mind when playing against CCT as well. What I learned in general, playing against decks that are going to choke your force and choke your activation, it's better to set up a little slower and take things a little slower. I think I did a better job of that with OA than I did with this deck, so that's perhaps good progress if that is the the right way to play, but it seems like it to me. And then one thing I can improve on with playing this deck, I think oftentimes I was pulling a single card on the opponent's turn with IG-88, getting one activation off the console, then drawing it into my hand. So maybe leaving myself a bigger force pile to have a little bit better card selection with IG-88's ability is very strong. Force push every turn is quite powerful. Force push at no cost even. So yeah, making better use of that resource and that toolbox, I guess you could say. Then for my light side games, I played OA. One thing that I really found is a fantastic card is Brave Resistance, and I'm sure people that have been playing for longer they're probably going, yeah, duh, but sometimes reading a card versus playing with it, you can see suddenly there's that light switch moment of like, oh, okay, so this card, I can do this with this card, or I can see how powerful this is. So the force generation is good, a nice little bonus, but just the ability to kind of toolbox who you need in different situations. In one matchup, they were going to be in space, so I know that I needed to get Poe out to get my space set up as soon as I could. In another matchup, I thought I might get attacked, so I needed to go get a Finn into my hand so that I could react and defend myself. And yeah, against like walkers, you can go pull Chewbacca, right, to deal with a walker. So yeah, very flexible card, and also very consistent, right? You're pretty much guaranteed that if you want to play a certain combination of characters on turn 1, you can do that. One thing that maybe isn't a bad thing, I couldn't really think of something that I didn't enjoy about this deck. I think the one thing that I would maybe mention that was confusing to me is the inclusion here, and I mentioned this in one of the videos, the All Wings and Darklighter spin. So it doesn't have a target to pull with the used portion. It can be used in conjunction with Wedge for a Destiny 5, which is fine, but I mean, you're not using it here for Destiny 3. I guess Falcon. Oh no, Falcon's only a 4. So yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the purpose is, other than I thought like maybe it is some sort of bait. So try and get them to grab this if they don't know your list. So maybe MHT could enlighten us on this card's purpose in the deck. I'm sure it has one. But that leads me to my next thing that I really did enjoy about it is that there's a lot of good interrupts in the deck that make it difficult for your opponent to make a effective grab, right? So you have the Rebel Leaderships, you have the Handle Myself. Against certain decks, they're going to have to grab this, right? So then your other strong interrupts can do a lot of work. Barrier is one people will often worry about, even it's a hit in certain situations. So lots of strong interrupts, and that makes it difficult for your opponent to kind of utilize their grabber well. What I learned about this deck, I learned that this deck is very resilient. The flip side of the objective, subtracting 2 from a Destiny, combined with the fact that in space, the ship that pulls on is going to be into attrition 5, and usually you're going to have an admiral in space between Satura or Radis, or even Holdo, so that you can limit them to one destiny. So that one destiny -2 means they are almost never cracking your immunity. And kind of same thing goes Falcon on the ground in vehicle form. Immune to attrition 6 if both Finn and Rey are there. And so again, with the -2, if you've got a general there between Calrissian or Leia, again, you can make sure they only draw one battle destiny. And then -2. So very hard to dislodge them from the sites that they're on. So it seems like it's going to win a prolonged battle of attrition in a lot of cases. One thing I learned in general, I really, really, really need to do a better job of going through and reading cards, even cards that I think I know what they do. There's a lot of text on a lot of Star Wars cards, and sometimes you miss things, so there's a few pretty bad examples in some of the games with OA where my lack of reading comprehension or reading closely, like with Blue 11 pulling out Leia, and then I couldn't play General, and then with me not understanding why I couldn't fight because I wasn't reading my opponent's objective clearly. So as my friends would often say, RTFC, right? Make sure you're reading the fucking cards. And then one thing I need to get better at, confirming my force pile. So with this deck, with a Brave Resistance, you're looking in your deck often, and so just always keeping track of what's in my force pile. And then if I need to, in key matchups, I might have to take a turn to draw. If I really need to get this escape pod combo going or something like that. So most of the time I might look for a card or two, but just really kind of taking a moment, going through what are all the cards in my deck, so what is in my force pile, so I know my options. And obviously that will become easier the more you play with the deck, the more you get to know the card list, but it's easy enough on GIMP to have a list open on the side. So overall, I really enjoyed both these decks. Again, I like the space and ground presence, that mixture. Both had a game plan, pretty straightforward to set up and play. I think I like OA a little better in its style with the resiliency and sticking on the board, but I can see the appeal of CCT as well, with just battling, stack the audience chamber, go crazy, attack their sites wherever they are, and just retrieve and try and churn through characters until they don't have any left. So both fun decks, and look forward to some more chances to play with them. Alright, until next time, thanks for tuning in, and we've got 6 more games to go in the month of March here. I think I'm going to be playing Legend for the light side, so look for those games, and if you have a vote for the dark right now, I think either ROPs or Walkers are the ones that I might end up trying out, so still feel free to vote on that. And we will see you later.